I'll be talking about the overview and heritage of China, their origin, residence, topography, economics and politics, and education and occupation. The origin. China is one of the world's oldest continuing civilizations. The People's Republic of China is referred to as mainland China or communist China. Taiwan became a Chinese province in the mid-1680s and was annexed to the Japanese in 1895. Then, after World War II, Taiwan came back under the control of China and is still that way today. Hong Kong was not under the control of China until it was returned from the British after being in their control for 150 years. Even though China is the most populated nation in the world, just under 50% of its people live in urban areas, making the majority live in rural areas. China's topography separates the country from the cities. Immigration to the United States began in the 1800s when the gold rush was happening in California and cheap labor was needed for building the transcontinental railroads. The men who came for work intended to stay as temporary workers. Life was difficult due to being foreign, and the white people making life undesirable for them. Chinatowns were a safe haven where customs and beliefs were clung to, and communities were able to stay close. Many men were left alone without the possibility of their family ever joining them. But by 1965, refugees who had relatives in the United States were able to join them, and since then, the population rate has increased for Chinese Americans to 10% a year. The majority of Chinese Americans today are immigrants from Taiwan, Hong Kong, and mainland China. Over half of the immigrants from China live in these 5 states: California, New York, Hawaii, Illinois, and Texas. In the past, immigrants were mainly entering the labor force. Now, the majority still enter the workforce in service jobs. But there are those who enter education and higher services. The education level is separated as highly educated and poorly educated. Those who immigrate often fail to return to China. And this failure of return once being educated in the United States has been viewed as a detriment to China and has resulted in much tighter control over immigration by the Chinese government. Politics in China are viewed similar to how Americans view the government in the aspect to not being able to make a difference and suffering the decisions the government makes. In the documentary The Three Gorges Dam, when over 2 million Chinese had to evacuate their homes, some having been there since the Ming Dynasty, the Chinese interviewees reported faith in their ability to make the bad stuff they are given, and eventually it will be good again, just because that is the way of their being as Chinese. It was stated by the people that the government hands them bad stuff, but eventually it will be good again because they are able to modify to new circumstances, because that is the way it has always been. Next, I'll be talking about communication. Our text says that in China and Taiwan, the official language is Mandarin, which is based on the northern Beijing dialect and is spoken by more than 70% of the population. Nearly all Chinese are bilingual, speaking the national languages as well as a native dialect. The major dialects are Cantonese and Shanghaiese. In China, the native dialects are so different that groups in different locations can't understand each other verbally, but written language is the same. It is important to understand that verbal dialects are different, but they all share the same written language, Mandarin. When you are asking for an interpreter, be sure to find out what dialect the person speaks to ask for the appropriate interpreter. In China, out of respect, they will avoid saying the word no. This is a problem in the medical setting when misinterpretation occurs often when speaking English to English. Add in a foreign language and foreign communication styles, and this creates havoc for getting the right answers. Remember that Chinese Americans who are accustomed to their cultural ways of communication typically communicate with the use of nonverbal language. Saying yes when they really do mean no is an excellent example of this nonverbal type of communication. Eye contact is minimal. Too much contact is rude, and touch, even those that show affection, are very uncommon even in friendships and marriage, especially in public. It is considered inappropriate to hug or console a Chinese adult or child with touch. Silence is also valued. Do not push the conversation along. Feeling the need to talk is common for Americans, especially those in situations of helplessness, but it is not useful when communicating with Chinese Americans, as this style of speaking might turn them off from further communication with you. Take your time, respect their time to answer, especially if there is a time delay crossing cultural languages and communication styles. It is important to build a rapport with patients. Chinese Americans may feel uncomfortable discussing family or personal problems with healthcare providers because we are essentially strangers, and it is viewed as disrespectful to share private information with strangers. Culturally, Chinese may have a difficult time adhering to appointments due to their culture not putting an importance on keeping a rigid time schedule. This concept has changed for some Chinese Americans who have become more modern or have been in the United States for a long period of time. Modern views see tardiness as being disrespectful and expect others to be on time as well. As a nurse, it is important to know the concept of losing face. If you make a high-ranking person or official wait for you, both of you have lost face. Losing face is being disrespected. The culture basically chooses their actions in order to not disrespect their family through their actions, but to bring them honor instead. As for the significance of names, I didn't find any. But being formal with all elders, significant people, and strangers is a sign of respecting the person and yourself. Calling them by a title, like we would say sir or ma'am, is considered respectful. Following the Purnell model, I'll now speak about family roles and organization. Family is the structural basis of the society. The father is the leader for the family, speaking on their behalf while taking their ideas in, while the mother is the manager of the house, finances, and child rearing. There is an importance of keeping harmony with the environment. Decisions are created together and deferred to an elder if a group consensus cannot be reached. The concept of privacy is negatively viewed. It is not highly valued or is viewed as a luxury by the Chinese people. This is mainly because the majority of Chinese reside in urban areas where privacy is difficult to find. Status is acquired through age, job, marriage, and wealth. Maintaining face is very important to the Chinese and is accomplished by adhering to the rules of society. Feng Shui, winter and water, is what some Chinese Americans use to create harmony and balance to ward off evil spirits, promote good health, and bring prosperity. It is a type of art to design harmony in that area. For example, you can achieve feng shui by arranging your furniture and accessories to be open and balanced. Elderly women of the family are seen as wise. The family includes multiple generations and include those who have died as well. Respecting, remembering, and honoring your ancestors is a part of everyday life. On the subject of workforce issues, I'll be speaking about acculturation, autonomy, and language barriers. Acculturation can be seen in Chinese Americans throughout history. Examples of the workforce to make the railroads, students coming to learn in American schools, and family businesses opening for service-oriented operations. According to our text, popular service-centered businesses are dry cleaning and Oriental food restaurants. American Chinese might not think of themselves as autonomous due to the group mentality. Everyone works together for the group effort. This is especially seen in families. For example, a child in school makes good grades not for self, but for respect for the elders and the appreciation of elders and family putting him in school. The Chinese rely on a highly contextualized language where the nonverbal communication is just as important as the verbal, if not more. Few words are used to express a thought, and if you look at the exact written translation of Chinese to English, this idea follows through. There are less words for the ideas being shared, and nonverbal communication completes the sentence. If you don't understand something during an interaction with a Chinese patient, ask the interpreter for assistance to understand the intended message.